welcome back. Hey guys, and welcome back to the channel. Today I have something pretty special I'm super excited about. Most of you guys know that I'm super into cameras, and I've actually been holding on to my 70D for the past 3 years now. It's a great camera. I've had a lot of different cameras along the way. However, it was time to finally upgrade, and I made the jump, and I went ahead and ordered the Canon EOS M50. So today I wanted to go over pretty much the features, the things that the Canon EOS M doesn't have and does have, and just show you how this camera works in general. Without further ado, let's go ahead and get this thing unboxed and fully operational so you guys can see how exactly it works. Okay, first things first, just so you guys know, I actually picked this up at Best Buy. It was, luckily it was the last one that was in stock. I picked it up for $899. The reason why I paid $899 is because I wanted to get the kit lens that comes with it, which is a pretty cool lens that I found out, and I'm pretty excited to use this. There was very limited quantities in all of the areas I've been looking. I actually pre-ordered it at Anorama. When I contacted them today, they said that it was no longer in stock, so I was super frustrated. They said that the soonest that I could get it would be March 31st, because all the ones that they currently had in stock were already accounted for. So what I did was I looked at my local Best Buy, and they actually had 2 of these in stock. This was the last one, and I was able to pick it up on my lunch break today, so I'm pretty excited about this. Okay, I had to drop down a little bit. This is a little too tall for me, so I had to make sure that, you know, I could fit the box in my head inside. All right, let's get unboxed. Okay, first things first, this is exactly how the box looks. Front and back, left and right. On the front of the box, it shows you what you get inside. On the side here, it shows you the specifications for lenses, as well as the pricing on it, the color. Huge instruction manual. That is a huge manual, look at that. That's how thick, this is as thick as a Bible. The pages are about the same thickness too. I probably will use that, maybe, I don't know. Then you have this would be the limited warranty information. So your registration for your limited warranty. So that's something I have to hold on to, just in case. Also have the online album, 10 gigabytes free. Pretty cool. Okay, let's dig into the nitty gritty. Ooh, it's a nice little strap. It's about the size of a Canon strap. I mean, it might be alright. It's pretty light. The camera's gonna be small, so I understand why it's so tiny. Right here, we have the lens. This is actually about the size of a Micro Four Thirds lens. Pretty nice. I like that. That's how it looks. It's pretty clean. It's got a sleek little gray color to it. Highly enjoyable. And without further ado, let's go ahead and get the body out. That is a sleek looking body. Check that out. It's got a nice composite feel to it. It feels like the same material that the Canon 70D uses, the composite that the T6i Rebels use. It's got a little bit of weight to it. It's a little surprising. The T6i, the T7i, the bodies feel really light. They feel like you can break them. This thing actually has a good amount of sturdy weight to it. It's pretty surprising. All right, then we got our flip out screen, like so, fully articulating. That's pretty nice. On the Canon EOS M and other cameras, this part right here doesn't exactly have the spin wheel on it, which I'm kind of confused why that doesn't. Maybe it's because you can use this, but I mean, I can deal with that. It's not a big deal. I imagine it's because the wheel on the front is right here. So that's actually not too bad. The dials on it, there's not very many dials on it. It doesn't have displays like my 70D does on the top of it, where you can see your aperture and your ISO. So all that's going to have to be done on the touchscreen itself. I'm curious to see how functional that is. It looks like the flash is not an automatic flash. You have to flick it up yourself. I honestly never use this flash, even on my Canon 70D. So that's not really a deal breaker for me. I don't mind that at all. You got your 2 microphones in the front, 2 microphones right here, which is pretty cool. I don't see speakers on it though. I'm curious to see if there's any audio out of it. And then you have your microphone input right here on the side. So you can put your microphone inside of there. Pretty sweet. It's a nice little compact spot. sounds a little hollow. It's got a little hollow sound. Now there's one big beef that I have with these cameras. It's the way that this little stupid thing right here is. If you put a tripod on this camera and you try to change the battery at the same time, or even the SD card, you can't do it. Super annoying. The battery I could deal with if the battery life was good. This camera, from the specifications that I've seen, it only gets about 235 shots before the battery needs to be charged out. So I'm a little, it's kind of an annoying thing. Okay, so without further ado, let's go ahead and get this lens on this bad boy. Oh, the lens itself, it's got a plastic base on it. Probably to be, you know, I think with this camera right here, a lot of what they were trying to do was cost consumption. They did the flip flash right here to save money. They probably did that plastic mount to save money. And they probably removed a few things to save money. And I think that's totally fine, because for at this price, this thing's actually a pretty beefy little camera. It's got all the features that I would want. It looks like it runs pretty smooth. It's got the Digigate processor. It also has 4K in it, so I'm pretty excited to use that. And it also has 120 frames per second. That's one of the biggest things I want to test out myself. But that's how it looks with the lens on it. Pretty beefy. I'm excited to try this thing out.
We have readings over Kansas that were very pleasant today. However, we are looking for a new front to begin to drift south and eastward. The central and eastern parts of Kansas will very probably be cloudy in the morning, and then western Kansas will begin to get increasing cloudiness by tomorrow afternoon. Today, however, very, very pleasant reading. 73 up in the Goodland area, 72 at Garden City, 70 reported by Dodge City and Liberal, 72 over by the good folks.
Okay, so now that we have the camera all put together, let's go ahead and test this thing out. I'm curious to see how this looks. We've got the battery, and we also have the little charger right here. Okay. So we're gonna go ahead and turn it on. The first thing that I noticed is it's got this little blurriness to it. On the back it says to spin you have to click to hold this dial and spin it and turn it. And what that does is it turns the lens from its compact mode into the usable mode. You have the microphone input on the side. You also have the HDMI and USB output on the side over here, which is pretty standard. But I think the cool and major thing about this camera is that you have the ability to connect it with your Bluetooth as well as your Wi-Fi on your phone. I was able to connect this onto my phone pretty easily. First you use the Bluetooth, and then you use the Bluetooth to connect to the Wi-Fi. It's got this whole weird random thing to it. And then once you do that, you can actually take pictures and it'll automatically synchronize to your phone without even having to transfer it over, which is amazing because that saves me lots of time, and you can also back things up on the fly. I don't know about you, but I carry a 120 gigabyte phone. So if I clear out all my pictures on my phone, I can actually save and back up all my pictures, which automatically backs up to the cloud. So you have kind of like a double contingency there. I think that's pretty amazing. I'm really hoping that's where the technology in the future goes with Canon and other cameras. That's something that a lot of cameras, I don't think there's any camera that currently has it on the market right now. You can actually adjust the background blur, the brightness, the contrast, color tone, saturation, little things like that. You can adjust them on the fly, which is pretty cool, pretty major. You can do that for your cinematic setup and everything else. This will give you your options for your shooting style, and this is fully automatic. Now if we switch it over to manual, you can do your manual settings in here as well. And that gives you a lot more functionality. You don't have all the settings like you would on a 70D on the top screen here, as well as the manual adjustability. Everything that you need to do for that type of photography and videography, you're gonna have to do within here. If you wanna adjust your aperture, you have to adjust it in here. Also, if you want to adjust your ISO, you have to adjust it in here. And your shutter speed. Actually, I don't see shutter speed anywhere. I think I was just at, is that shutter speed? No, it's not. I think that this is pretty well laid out. I like it. Compared to my EOS M, it's actually very similar. I think the best thing about Canon cameras is the layout of this Canon camera on the back right here is actually the same on every other camera that I've ever owned. The dials on here is very similar. The controllability and functions of it feels very similar. So when I go from this camera, the 70D, to this camera, I'm not really getting confused or having to learn something else. So I think, yeah, this is definitely a great starter camera for anybody who's looking to start out. I also think that this is actually a pretty good vlogging camera. The lens that comes standard with it has a pretty wide angle to it, and I'll show you guys what it looks like right now. So what we're gonna do is I'm gonna switch everything over from the Canon 70D to the EOS M50 right now. And we're gonna test this thing out just to see how it looks. Okay, so now I'm shooting on the Canon EOS M50. It looks pretty good. This is a regular automatic setting that the camera is set up with. Hopefully the audio sounds pretty similar. I think the color science looks pretty good. And compared to the size of the 70D, this thing looks really tiny. We're gonna have to do a comparison. This camera right here has the 15 to 45 millimeter lens on it. It's about the same length away as the camera that we were just using, the Canon 70D. So the zoom length isn't really that bad for vlogging. I think that you can definitely use this for vlogging with the regular kit lens that it comes with. However, if you want to go a little wider, you can. This is actually not too bad. This is full 1080p. The face tracking works amazing. I'm seeing some really good face tracking. But let's try a few things to see what it looks like. We'll try some touch focus to see how well the dual pixel autofocus works in comparison right now. So let's test this guy out. All right, so what we'll do is we'll touch focus here, back to me, back to there, back to me, back to there, back to me. I gotta say that's pretty dang good. Dual pixel autofocus in 1080p is pretty amazing. Now a lot of people are concerned about the 4K focus, and I gotta say that's probably one of the biggest downfalls of this camera is the 4K is cropped. The 4K does not have the dual pixel autofocus. In a way I understand, but in a way I'm super pissed at Canon for doing this to this camera, because I think they could definitely destroy all of the Sony series cameras as well as the Panasonic cameras if they were just able to push this thing out without having to do all that stupid nonsense. So let's go ahead and test out the 4K on this camera to show you guys exactly how it looks. And I'm gonna leave it exactly the same spot, 15 on the lens, and we're gonna do a 4K shot of what I'm looking like right here. Now I will tell you that the rolling shutter on the 4K is pretty bad, and I'll show you guys how that works as well. Alright guys, so now we're in 4K, and as you can see the crop is pretty bad. Not only that, but the autofocus is pretty horrible itself. The contrast focus, it's okay. But it's not where it needs to be. So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna test out the autofocus, and that it didn't. I'm trying to get the bottle in the background. It's not finding it. I can't even select it. The touch focus is literally not working in the background. All right, so back to me. All right, so this is how it looks with a 4K camera. Not that great. Now, I did want to show you guys how it looks like if I was to pull off this 10 to 18 millimeter and put it on this camera, just to see what a wide angle lens would look like on this camera. So we'll go ahead and go get that lens adapter, and we'll put this thing on the camera and show you guys what that looks like right now. All right guys, this is the 4K video with a 10 to 18 millimeter lens. I can say it's a little better. You can see a little bit more depth and everything, but I don't think it's as good as it could have been without the crop in it. It'd be nice if you can get a adapter with a booster inside of it, a speed booster, where you can actually cut out the crop entirely, but it's still pretty bad. With this already being an APS sensor as well as the 4K crop, it's like triple to double times the amount of cropping that there should be on any camera. I think for regular videography, maybe even scenery, it may not be that bad in the long run, but for vlogging, I don't think it's usable in 4K. So, with that being said, I do really like this camera. I'm definitely going to be using it, and I will be using it in 1080p. I don't really care about 4K. The reason why I don't really like 4K is the time it takes to edit, and the amount of space that it takes up on the memory cards is pretty ridiculous. And another thing that I really hate with most 4K cameras is the jello. If you can see, it's very, very jello-y. As you move it, it's jello-y. So that's pretty much the review for the Canon EOS M for today, guys. I did about as much as I could on the review. I will say one thing, a couple of things, my cons for today for this camera. Let me switch out of 4K because I don't want to edit this later. So I did want to say a few things about this camera before we close. The body itself is fairly sturdy. It's not made out of the aluminum like the Canon EOS M is and a lot of the other brands that are out there. The amount of lenses available for this camera is pretty limited. The EF-M line, there's probably like 3 to 6 lenses that are usable in my opinion. And that being said, the price on each of those lenses is pretty ridiculous. They do have a lot cooler ones out there. I think that they're working, that Canon's definitely working on getting more lenses as well as better lenses out there that are more affordable. But right now, the lenses that are the most affordable are the EFS line, which all of my Canon 70D, T6Is, all those cameras, they use that lens right there. Even my wide angle lens that I have right here is the EFS. And with the adapter, it's pretty darn bulky. I'm really hoping in the future they do get some cheaper brands out there because I cannot afford to buy all new lenses for this setup. Another issue that I can say is the way that the battery and SD card goes in. It's not the most reliable, it's not the most functional with a tripod. You can't take your battery out, you can't take your SD card out. You have to take off your tripod to be able to reach that part of your camera. It's kind of frustrating if you're shooting video for long lengths of time and you have to swap out either your SD or your battery card. So that may become an issue in the long run, so I'm not very fond of that. But yeah, that's the review for the Canon EOS M50 for today, guys. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. I'm gonna be doing a lot more tests on this camera in the future. This right here is the simple review unboxing of this camera. Trust me, I'm gonna get a lot more videos out for you guys in the future. The biggest things I wanna work on is doing some test footage with color grading on the 4K, as well as the 120 frames per second 720p video footage. I did test it out today and I think that it actually looks pretty good. So I'm excited to see how that looks. All right, guys, that's it for today. I'm really super excited to use this camera. This is gonna be my main camera from now on for vlogging. So you'll be seeing a lot more of me on this camera. The 25.8 megapixel sensor is pretty stout. It's got really good quality. I feel like it's a lot sharper than the 70D, which is 20 megapixels. And it just has something crisp about it that I really like. I'm curious to see how the colors work on this camera compared to the 70D, and we'll see how everything else goes in the long run. Alright guys, that's it for today. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. If you like the video, if you like camera reviews, if you like anything on this channel, feel free to subscribe. Alright guys, I'll see you guys next time. Peace! Alright guys, so here is the size comparison between the 70D as well as the M50. As you can see, it's pretty significant. I don't know how to, so this is the size, top and bottom comparison to the 70D, and then the side by side. This thing is definitely a heavier beast. The battery is a lot heavier in this, so you're gonna get that. But this thing, it's pretty tiny. I'm definitely digging it. It's the Canon EOS M50, guys. Dual pixel autofocus and such a tiny, beautiful thing is amazing. It's amazing!